Gentlemen, this is Christelle Martinet, and I'm back here scrying. And tomorrow we have a shift from Aries, Jupiter, this intense Aries energy moving. Jupiter is moving into Scorpio, and I do feel the shift myself, actually, and I'm thanking one of my subscribers who's asked me to talk about the situation, general movements, people are being separated, and I thought long and hard, and I've tried, but I don't see separation, I don't see separation, and I thought, okay, let me go on camera and see, because it is a will of man. We will ourselves to separate from each other. But we are not. We are not separate. And this is the downfall. This is the difficulty. This is the quandary that we have to contend with. First of all, let me take it from a more mundane point of view, okay? The mundane point of view of boy meets girl, okay? So there are many reasons why they never come back, or I just can't go back, or the energy is just pulling us apart. There's a sort of centrifugal force that's pulling us apart. But it's pulling us apart physically, but spiritually we are one. Now, this work that I do is, and I can't tell you how many countless times people, men and women who come to read with me, say, I've never felt this pull before. I feel like they're with me. I feel like they're with me in the room. I know what they're doing. I know, what is happening. What could this possibly be? And of course, then we go, and I go into the cards and I see, okay, this person's married, this person is ill, this person is this person is that. Doesn't change anything. It really doesn't change anything. And tonight, it's night here in Rome, I wanted to take it from a broader perspective, of course, but it doesn't change that much at all. And I'll tell you why. Let's take the example. There's a very close example here in Catalonia, in Spain, in the Basque Republic. They want to separate from Spain, and all the local people are gathering around, and it's quite difficult. The situation is very, very delicate at a national level because none of the legal documents is prepared for anything like this, and the national government is at odds as to how to deal with the situation. Now, we can build a wall. You, man, can build a wall between you and I, woman. It doesn't change anything. I see you at night. I see you in my dreams. You are with me in other timelines, constantly on your mind. And the thoughts, the dreams, the visions, the smell, the perfumes that we are, it's always there. How could we explain, though, the rash, brutal force that is exercised against mass populations, genocides, phenomena of this type? And I've asked myself, and I've asked myself off camera, and what I get is the image of centrifugal force, and it's part of energy in the universe, and energy that's never lost, but it has a different dynamics, it has a different reaction, and it has different fallout. I'll use that word, fallout. There's a certain balance in the universe. Okay, there's a certain balance in this universe that I would like to say there are many universes, but in as far as our mind could travel, as far as our mind can conceive, there's a certain equilibrium that is maintained. Now, it's delicate for me, a topic to speak about, because on the one hand, I do see swirls of centrifugal force. Why do we have earthquakes? Why are there hurricanes? Why does nature, tidal waves, why does this occur? We're talking about the same type of phenomenon as men and women taking up weapons and literally burning to the ground terrain, killing people. The phenomenon, if you will, if you take a broader view, are very similar. You still ask yourself those questions. Why? On the one hand, you have the force of nature, and those of us who do this type of work, you sort of raise your hands in the front of the forces of nature. But that doesn't stop us from asking why. Why does an earthquake have to level entire cities, entire regions, and kill so many people? It is the same question. And as I was off camera, I was still seeing the armies of people, of men and women and children, marching together in unison. It was a march of progress, a march of development, a march forward. And despite any energy, any kind of action, any kind of phenomena that would get in our way, there is an inescapable movement towards a certain development. Now, can you avoid certain things? Right, this is the age-old question. People who come to me and they ask, I met this person and this person and this person. I would like to have some more information. And sometimes the cards are very forthcoming. Sometimes the crystals are very forthcoming. Sometimes my mind and my psychic abilities are very forthcoming. And I, joke and say, I could tell you exactly what color his underwear is today, or, jokingly. But, when you are told that this person has a certain lifestyle, this person has children, and it's completely in a different, it's a different plane, you're taken aback, but that's life. We are not children. We are living, breathing animals. Humans take actions, and actions, we make choices. And life is a series of choices on the one hand. If you compare that, as I'm seeing here, to all of those natural phenomena, that's when you start to truly find an incredible area without any answers. I can't see the color of the underwear that the person who's launching, what they're wearing, who shoved that tidal wave our way. I can't see if he was in or she was in a bad mood. Where is it, a he or she? What is going on? Of course, those of you will be out there laughing, at what I'm saying, and I dare anyone to give me one response. It's not just today that I or anyone else in the world has been questioning ourselves of how did you come here? What forces brought us here? What form of energy? Now, we can go and talk until, the end of time about this, but there's really not one answer. And again, I have to say that I don't see separation. I see unity, unity at the end of a universal natural struggle phenomenon. After a hurricane completely destroys an area, there is unison, there is coming together. When wars are waged, inevitably there's a faction, there are factions, there are areas that come together. People are driven together. What drives people apart? It's difficult for me to say what exactly drives people apart, but what I do know is, and all of you may have started to feel this already, is that we're in a moment of time where there is a new spiritual awakening, and we all feel this. Never before have we seen so many people say, I know it, I feel it, I see it, I'm feeling psychic, I know and it will go on for the next 2 years. It's sort of an awakening. How does this fare on an international level in terms of being separated from others? If I work on a certain dimension, in a certain dimension, and for example, my client is in Oregon, and a person they love dearly is in Saudi Arabia. They haven't seen them for 2 or 3 years, and the communication has stopped between them. They are worried for their health. They're worried for their well-being. In cases like that, where I go for information, where my psychic abilities get responses from, are a number of different places that I can't go into right now, but that is possible for me to do because we are one. I would not be able to tap into information like that unless we were, you know. And again, you know, I have to say to Angelique, the subscriber, welcome. I don't see separation. It's a bit, you know, you can say, what is she, crazy, is she naive? You could say, for example, all right, I'm a mother, I have 2 children, and for many years there was a period in Italy when you know, people would shoot each other on the streets. You know, they would just go shooting each other on the streets, political, whatever reasons. You know, it was called by a certain name, and we got through it. I would come and go from this country, and after I had children, friends of mine, international friends, I have a lot of international friends, they would say to me, how could you, I mean, why don't you send your children to this school, to that school, to the United States, to this world, to this place, well, apart from the fact that they never wanted to go, I have to say they never wanted to go. And just when, you know, I would start being able to you know, send them someplace or get them to listen, then the 9/11 occurred, and you know, we all were aghast. You know, I come from the East Coast. I grew up, half of my life was spent in the East Coast between the city of New York and northern New Jersey. I've traveled practically all over the United States for work that I did there, and I have to say, I was taken aback, and I thought, well, does it matter where you are? Because one day it's New York, the next day it's Afghanistan, the next day it's Las Vegas, the next day it's Pakistan. You will never know when that tidal wave will come and separate you from your loved ones. Now, I have of course, this is just throwing it out. I'm being the devil's advocate here in many respects, so hear me out. I did mention in the beginning of a video months ago that I lost a very close family member. And of course, you know, I would say, my God, how could she not see? Why is she fighting it? Towards the very end, I used to think, why is she fighting it? isn't it the soul that decides when they come and when they go? And I'm convinced of this. But there's one fundamental question, and this is the question, apart from separating. Why doesn't human consciousness and the body as one accept and embrace death when it's the soul that decides to exit stage left? Now, I don't mean to take this scrying session extend it to other realms where people may be uncomfortable in listening, but I opened this YouTube channel precisely because my other subscribers may not be comfortable with this type of talk and with this type of work. Obviously, it is, many people don't know what the soul is. Many people talk about the soul. There's always this soul's journey. It is a journey. It's metaphorically portrayed that way. And I used to think, well, these people know that they are going. They know they're leaving, and they decided. But then the mind splits so often. Could be because of drugs taken. And so let's compare that discussion to the mind of a man or woman who takes a weapon in their hands and is about to completely destroy an entire region. Is their mind the result of a chemical imbalance? Are we such delicately, critically complicated human beings that it's completely impossible to understand why something is done? It's like, for example, trying to pin the blame on someone when the dynamics of every situation has no blame. There is no blame anywhere. I do this because you do that. You do that because I do this. We do that. And we are together in this dynamics. Don't you see it's not working? We're not growing. Okay. Now, when there's no growth, there's frustration. And that foments fear. And I'll leave you with this thought because it's very clear here. This beautiful crystal quartz exudes the light of purity. Fear is, I can say, and this is work in progress, so don't pin this on me, but fear seems to be at the basis of the most disheartening acts and occurrences. The reason why you put a wall up to me. You're afraid of judgment from me. You're afraid that I will see you in eyes that may not please you, and so on and so forth. Why do you put up the barrier between these two countries and you won't let your people enter my land, this land, our land? There are think tanks all over the world, and I have had the opportunity and the interesting experiences, and I still do, to act as an interpreter at an international level. So it often occurs that I interpret exchange of ideas. And believe me, as there are some stupid, pig-headed people that are world leaders, there are delightfully intelligent human beings that speak of the most mundane occurrences at a level that would completely floor all of us. And the simplicity with which they express themselves is a lesson that many pig-headed politicians should stop and listen to. The idea would be to have people listen. And it's not a matter of doing the mea culpa, no. And, this type of act. No, it's understanding and it's opening. And I may not have responded to your wish, Angelique. But we are one, and I speak the language of one, and I am convinced that we all serve to be one and to recognize that language of one. And we need to further the language of one. Talking about working as an interpreter, I was one of my first jobs. I was so nervous. I don't remember what. I think it was the Prime Minister at the time, and I was so nervous. And my mom said to me, "Just imagine them in underwear, big white, red polka dots, and you'll be fine," you know. And it worked, and I almost laughed through the whole thing. But we are the same. We come from the same place, and we are going to the same place, whether we like it or not. I guess that's enough. You've had enough of me tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, namaste. It was a pleasure. Till we read together again. Bye-bye.